How is everybody? Or how are you all? That's good. That's good. Okay, so when we left off last time, we had just gotten done talking about the Hamburg strategy model, which focuses on arena or where are you going to be active as a business, differentiators, how are you going to be different than the competition, vehicles, how are you going to go about doing these first two, and then staging. Um, what order are you going to do things in? And then economic logic. Are you competing on cost? Are you competing on differentiation? How are you going to make a sizable profit? So that's where we stopped last time. Um, next slide is this strategy a winner? So how do you determine if your strategy is going to work or not? Well, first of all, the Hambrick, the full Hambrick model that we had, if you remember last time, has vision, mission, goals here, and then external, internal environment assessment here, and implementation down here, and then it's got that diamond that we just looked at here. So one of the first things you want to ask yourself is how well does the right hand of the model fit with the left hand of the model? So if I go back in the slides a little bit, how well does your strategic analysis and supporting organizational arrangements fit with your vision, mission, and objectives? So question number one. Question number two is, where is my cursor? There we go. So the next question is, how long was your advantage going to last? Any strategy has a limited shelf life. Eventually, your competition is going to come up and be able to imitate what you do. The question is, how long can you maintain your low-cost position or your differentiation? And the longer term that it is, the better off you are. And then finally, the performance test. How well is the strategy actually producing good performance? And that performance has to be measurable. It's partially how profitable are you, how good is your return on investment, but it's also what kind of an impact are you making with your employees and in their ability to reach their career goals and their personal financial goals, their personal life goals, and then what kind of impact are you having on the society around you? Um, and these things need to be measurable. If you can't measure it, then you can't measure it. You can't study it. So those are the three things to think about when determining whether your strategy is really going to work long term or not. We've got 3 levels of strategy, or 3 levels of the organization that we're going to talk about at various times in this course. One is the headquarters level. The middle is the strategic business unit level. Excuse me. And then we've got the business functional areas. And if I compare this to Cal State as an institution, the headquarters strategy is up here at the chancellor's office level. So that's down in Long Beach. And we've got 23 different Cal State campuses. Cal State Bakersfield is one of those 23. So one of these SBUs, if this were Cal State, would be Cal State Bakersfield. You'd have San Diego State, San Jose State, Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, Cal Poly Pomona, et cetera, et cetera. You'd have all of them laid out here. And then these business functional areas, it works well for our campus because we've got 4 schools and there are 4 boxes on this this chart here. So your 4 functional areas for Cal State Bakersfield are going to be this college, the College of Business and Public Administration, the College of Arts and Humanities, the College of Natural Sciences, Mathematics and Engineering, and the College of Education and Social Sciences. So that's at an organizational level where we're looking at various things over the course of the semester. Somebody had asked me last time, how do the chapters in the book match up with the lectures that we're talking about here? I've got a map of all of the chapters of the book here, and I'm going to explain right now how they map up with the syllabus. So if I escape out of this, so we got introduction and course overview here in week number 1. That pretty much corresponds with vision and mission, the green box right here, and that's going to be chapter 1 in your book as well. Next week, we're going to talk about case analysis and the Globus simulation, so that actually doesn't correspond to any chapter in your book. We're not going to have a lecture on the book next week. External analysis that we go over in week 3 pretty much maps to chapter 2 in your book. Internal analysis that we go over in week 4 pretty much maps to chapter 3 in your book. Business level strategy that we go over in week 5 pretty much maps to chapter 4, business level strategy. So it's mapping pretty closely. As we get further along, there's going to be some chapters that are combined into one lecture. So let me go ahead and give you the rest of the overview. Competitive rivalry in week 6 is pretty much the same as chapter 5 in your book. Week 7, corporate level strategy, and week 7, global presence correspond to chapter 6 and chapter 8 in your book. There's going to be a little bit of chapter 7 that's combined with our chapter 6 lecture, but those will both be covered. Those will both be covered in corporate level strategy, as well as to a certain extent chapter 9. We're not going to use chapter 9 a whole lot. A little bit of chapter 9 will be covered in the lecture on business level strategy, or corporate level strategy, excuse me. But most of that we're not going to use. And then going forward, corporate governance that we've got in week 9 corresponds to the chapter 10, corporate governance. Corporate responsibility that we have also in week 9 does not really map to any particular chapter in the book. It's a lecture that I put together on how to be a good corporate citizen. And then our final lecture on management pretty much corresponds with Chapter 11, Organizational Structure and Controls. So we're not. It has a little bit of Chapter 12 in it. Hey, how's it going? A little bit of Chapter 12 in it. We're not going to use Chapter 13. So does that give you a better overview of how things map? Okay, good. So I want to talk a little bit about emergent versus deliberate strategies. And then we're going to talk about business model. And then we're going to go on into talking about your LinkedIn profiles a little bit today. So emergent versus deliberate strategies. Most strategies in the world are emergent in one way or another, which means that where you got to at the end is not necessarily where you thought you were going to get to when you started. So a deliberate strategy would be you make your plans, you go through the plans, you realize your strategy. Most strategies have some kind of unpredicted change that comes up as you're going through the process of reviewing your vision, mission, goals, deciding what the arenas and differentiators and vehicles and staging are, making sure you know what your economic logic is. Then you do all your analysis of the external and internal environments. You look at your implementation, and you realize, hey, we can't actually implement what we were going to do. So then you have to change, come to an emergent strategy, which has shifts to deal with the unpredicted changes, actions by lower level managers that all bubble up into what eventually is the realized strategy. So just because we say strategy does not mean that you're going to decide today what you're going to do and damn it, come hell or high water, that's what you're going to do. A lot of times the strategy changes as you go through the process. Business model. This is a tool that I like to use. It's not necessarily covered in the book so much, but it is a big part of your case analysis paper. It's kind of a blueprint for delivering value, and I like to think of it as a top-level map that you can memorize that helps you tell the forest from the trees in what you're doing. So there's 3 parts of it: value proposition, profit model, and resources needed. The first thing, value proposition, is very simply, what value do you deliver from the customer's point of view? Not from your business point of view, but if you ask the average customer, what do you get out of me as a company, you should be able to answer that off the top of your head. The second question is, what's your profit model? So in that case, what are the major revenue streams? What are the major variable costs? What are the major fixed costs? And then for resources needed, what resources do you need in order to be good at the value proposition and the elements of the profit model? So if we take Cal State again as an example, I would say, I'd like you guys to correct me if I'm wrong, the value proposition that we have is you get a diploma, you get a certain set of knowledge and skills, and you get a productive career and job in the area that you wanted to go into. Like that, you pay us tuition, we give you a diploma, knowledge and skills, and a productive, happy career. Like, now, I know that we don't have a 100% job placement rate right now as an institution, but I'll say here in this class, I think that's what we should have. It's hard to get to that point, but that, I believe, is the product we should be delivering for you guys. Does that sound like what you want from me, or is there something else that you had in mind as the product that we're delivering? Okay. So that's the value proposition. You guys give us tuition. we give you a diploma, skills and knowledge, and a job. Profit model. How do we do that? Well, first of all, the biggest way that money comes into I wonder if this marker actually works. Oh, good. There's sort of 3 pots of money that make up the revenues for Cal State. The biggest one is government, the state of California. We get a bunch of tax money given to us that largely allows us to run our institution. Actually, I should put 3 circles down here. We have tuition coming from you guys. We have, I'm going to call it alternate tuition coming from Open University, coming from our international students. We have some other sources of tuition that aren't the same tuition as domestic students. And then I'm going to put a D here. Looks like a P, but it's supposed to be a D. For donations. A lot of bigger universities, that circle is a lot bigger. So, for example, I did my MBA at UCLA. When I was there, this circle was more like this, and the government circle was more like this. We had a lot more money coming from donations than we had coming from the government. But the goal of UCLA's business school, not the whole campus, but just the College of Business. The goal of the College of Business was to have 100% funding from donations and tuition, and to have no government money. And they actually achieved that about 4 or 5 years ago. So and the nice thing about that is that you don't have to follow the rules anymore. There's a whole bunch of rules that come with being funded by the government. And if you take away that money, and you make this one bigger, it gives you a whole lot more flexibility as an institution. But for the purposes of this class here, the fact that we have 4 revenue sources, money from the government, money from traditional tuition, money from alternate tuition, and money from donations, it's important to understand that that's where the money comes from in this business. Variable costs, we have a lot of them. I'm just going to give one example. Instructor salaries. So in order to have a class, you have to have somebody standing up here teaching it. And the more classes we teach, the more salary we have to pay for instructors. So as the delivery of the product increases, the variable costs increase. Fixed costs, a good example of that is the cost of maintaining all these buildings here. So we have the buildings that we have, regardless of whether, you can see, I'm very cognizant of this number right here, 75 persons, because a lot of people have been wanting to add the class, and this is actually the number that matters. I can't have any more than 75. But we could have 20 in here, and we'd still have to pay the same cost to maintain the building. So that's a fixed cost. So knowing in your mind that, your business, this is the profit, this is the value proposition of your business, this is the profit model, revenues, variable costs, fixed costs, and then these are the resources we need to be able to deliver this. So if we look at the value proposition, diploma, knowledge, skills, and a job. So in order to deliver that, well, we need pretty paper and printing ability. That's a small part of it. We need a base of knowledge to convey to you the knowledge and skills, and we need good connections with the community in order to be able to put you in touch with the kind of jobs that you want. For the profit model, the revenues, like I said, were government, 2 types of tuition and donations. So in order to be successful with that, we need good relationship with the government. If we're on antagonistic terms with Sacramento, we're not going to get the money that we want. Um, we need to have good recruiting to go out and get as many students to pay tuition as possible and find as many alternative tuition students as possible. Good relationships with institutions in other countries. Good relationships with the community to advertise our open university program. And then we need a good fundraising program. We need relationships with donors in the community. So that, in a nutshell, is the business model, and that is what I would like for you to be able to articulate about whatever business it is that you want to go into. So you should be able to say off the top of your head, you know, my value proposition is that I give degrees, knowledge, skills, and a job. I get that from 4 revenue sources, these variable costs and these fixed costs. These are the resources that I need in order to be able to do that. You should be able to say that by memory off the top of your head. And that's one of the elements of the case analysis that I'm gonna have you fill out in your case paper. Make sense? Any questions about that? Okay, let's talk about LinkedIn. Or let's try to talk about LinkedIn as the PowerPoint opens really, really slowly. So, how many people in here had a LinkedIn profile before? Okay, so a little over half of you. How many had really filled it out and used it a lot? Okay, so maybe a quarter of you. LinkedIn, for those of you who are not using it as heavily, in my opinion, is your 21st century resume. Like, 5 or 10 years from now, you won't even need to send a resume document to people anymore. You'll just give them your LinkedIn address, in my opinion. Now, it may take a little longer because there's old farts out there basically who like to use resumes. But you can make a resume out of LinkedIn. I'll show you guys, there's a function where you can just print out your resume from LinkedIn. So everything you do in LinkedIn, you're not having to duplicate your work in making a resume. So there's 5 things that I want to talk about when it comes to LinkedIn. The first thing is just how powerful it is as a resource. There's pretty much no strangers in the world anymore with LinkedIn. It functions on a system of first degree, second degree, and third degree connections. And I'll show you how this works after I get done talking about the rest of the elements of what I want you to do with your profile. I'll open up LinkedIn and have you guys tell me the name of a company, and I'll tell you who I know there. It's really cool how this software works. Or tell me a certain skill set, and I'll tell you who I know that has those skills. That's how powerful this tool is, and it's because everything is all linked together in a giant relational database. So the other things that I want to talk about before I do that example Positioning statement. So at the beginning of your LinkedIn profile, you're going to have a summary um, positioning statement, and it's really that's your opportunity to tell people who you are as a professional. Um, you don't want them to have to guess who you are as a professional by reading your work history and your education. You want to just tell them, hey, I am a finance professional, or hey, I have a small business jack of all trades, or hey, I am a fashion industry expert. Whatever it is, you can tell them up front and craft the picture that you're giving people by that summary statement. It's really important to go beyond your work experience. For many of you in here being undergrads, the work that you do in your classes is considerably more impressive than what you actually do in your jobs right now. So articulating the work that you've achieved in your classes as if it were a job makes you look a whole lot more impressive as a job candidate than just talking about how you've worked as a cashier or how you've worked in customer service or whatever. It's a lot more impressive to talk about the things that you've accomplished in your classes. Duties versus accomplishments. There's a nice link here that I've given you. I'm not going to open it up right now, but you have it there for your reference. Most people, when they describe their work, they talk about duties. So I'm a professor. I teach 4 classes. Well, that's already. I'm a professor. I teach undergrad classes. I also participate in committees and I publish journal articles. Well, anybody that knows something about professors already knows that those are what my job responsibilities are. So what is more impressive is to say over the last 2.5 years, I have taught over 500 individual students. I have taught 10 different courses. I think it's probably more than that now. I've taught 10 different courses. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. No, I've taught 20 different courses with approximately 50 different student small business projects. So putting numbers together with your job responsibilities, very important. So even if you are a cashier at Vons, there's a certain number of customers that come by your customer terminal every day. There's a certain amount of dollars that go through that cash register every day. There's a certain value of the inventory that you might have to stock and restock on the shelves. I want to know those numbers. That makes your profile look a whole lot more impressive than just saying what you did without any numbers attached to it. And then finally, the importance of polish and detail. There's a lot of words. It's funny, a lot of my colleagues and just old people in general rail about how you guys and just like Generation Y in general can't write for crap. And there's some truth to that. There's a lot of improvement in your writing that could be made, but I think partially it's because we live in an information age now where information is so ubiquitous. You're on the spot more. You have to produce a lot more words, and the probability that you're going to misspell some of them goes up astronomically when you have to produce so many more words. So if you look back at the founding fathers of the country, they misspell things all the time. Honestly, like they didn't really have a standard way to spell things. Like sometimes you'd spell with an I, and sometimes you'd spell with an E. And everybody just sort of understood. Oh well, he meant spell or she meant spell. I don't think things have really gotten worse. I just think that it's more in your face now because we have so much digital information everywhere. That being said, if you have misspellings, if you have grammar errors, if you have things that are are visually hard to get through in your LinkedIn profile, it's going to distract people. It's going to make you look unprofessional. So even though you are being held in some ways to a higher standard than your parents or your grandparents' generation, tough luck. you gotta. I've been working on my LinkedIn profile for 5, 6 years now, and I still have little spelling errors that I'll find and I'll change, the way things are phrased in certain ways. You just want to keep going through your profile constantly with a fine-tooth comb and making it look prettier and prettier. So, those things being said, positioning statement. So, this is an example of my positioning statement. International business development scholar, educator, and consultant with over 20 years of experience. I talk about a couple of areas where I have expertise and a couple of accomplishments that I've had. So it's the first sentence is the most important. I could start that. I used to work in the music business for a long time. So before I became a professor, I was in music licensing. I would negotiate contracts between artists and record labels and distributors and concert venues and stuff like that. If I were still in the music business, I would not write international business development scholar, educator, and consultant. I would write international music licensing expert with over 20 years of experience. And the things I list as my specialties would be mechanicals licensing, oldies, bless you, oldies concert booking, and new product development. It'd be totally different than what's here because I'm trying to pitch myself as a music industry professional, not as a professor. Since I'm a professor now, this is what it looks like. So for each of you, depending on whether you want to go into banking or you want to go into marketing, you want to go into IT, you're going to put different stuff here depending on what it is that you want to go into. So that's the positioning statement. Leveraging the value of educational projects. So when I was at UCLA doing my MBA, we had to do similarly to what you guys have to do for your case analysis in this class, a little bit different. We had to go out and find a company in the LA community and do a consulting project for them. That was our assignment for our capstone course. So, I had experience up until then doing some business development and some consulting for Price Waterhouse, but I had never actually been the lead manager of a project before, and I was for this capstone project. So in my LinkedIn profile, I went in and put UCLA Anderson School of Management, Runway Post-Production. That's the name of the company that we did the project for. Together with 3 colleagues, developed recommendations for improving by nearly 25% the core profit margin of Runway Post-Production. So it's got some numbers in there. Together with 3 colleagues, 25% improvement in the profit margin. It has a description of what Runway was, but it's only one sentence, really. I mean, I could probably make that. It's a little bit of a run-on sentence. I could probably go in talking about the polishing aspect. I could probably go in and make this 2 sentences so that it's not such a run-on sentence. But that's all you got to put is a sentence or 2 with some numbers. But this is part of my education, not part of my job experience. And I'll show you in a second where to do that. Duties versus accomplishments. You'll see here, assistant. This is the profile of one of my students from a couple of years ago. Assistant manager, Big 5 Sporting Goods. Responsibilities included opening and closing the store, creating work schedules, receiving weekly shipments, da 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 da. That's great. That's a good start. But I want to know, what did you accomplish? How many? So how often did you open and close the store? How many employees did you create work schedules for? Um, how many shipments did you receive each week? How many? What was the dollar value of the inventory? Stuff like that. So if you look here, this is a description of a job that I did for Robert Half, which is a headhunting company. Um, so there's a quick statement: account executive responsible for blah blah blah, and then there's another sentence that says deliverable accomplishments include the following, and then I give numbers: generated $100,000 in gross margin, set and conducted 300 project scoping meetings, scoped, sold, and managed a pilot project for $1 million. That's the kind of numbers that I want you to put in your profile. And then finally, polish and attention to detail. Um, it's when you're writing it, I'm sure it seems maddening to think about all these little errors, but when you're reading it, they become really obvious. So I've put a little, like this is another student of mine that I had from a couple years ago. Created a company comparison template between two rival firearms companies, showcasing is one word, not two words. The advancements started for years to come. For the years to come should be for years to come, not for the years to come. For another example, took a class where I worked on a data analysis project. It's little things that when you're writing, you probably don't even notice because you're just trying to dump the information out of your brain. But you got to go back and check these things because they look dumb if you don't check them. So anyway, let me pull up LinkedIn. We got about 10 minutes left and show you a couple things. Crap. I had to change my password a little while back, and I never remember what it is. Hang on one second. Okay, here we go. So um, this is what LinkedIn looks like when you're in editing mode. So each of you, your own profile will look somewhat like this with your picture up here, your name, your job title, etc., going on down. If you're just getting started adding elements to your profile to make it more robust, right here, right underneath your profile is it's going to have little little buttons where you can choose add work experience, add projects, add education, etc. So you're just going to click on whichever one you want in order to start adding that part to your profile. Once you've added those elements, you're going to have, in order to add additional elements, you're going to need to go down to the section that has that stuff in it and click on the plus button to add another thing. So, for example, if I wanted to add another job, I just click on the plus button here and I can add the new job. And of course, LinkedIn has a new format right now, so I can't. I'm going to have to go in and play with it to tell you where to click for your projects, because projects aren't where they used to be. LinkedIn's moved everything around. But the really cool thing about LinkedIn, the thing I wanted to show you before we call it a day, is that I basically there's nobody that's a stranger to me anymore. I can figure out who I know at a certain organization just by typing it in here. So somebody here, tell me the name of an organization you'd like to know who I know at.
Google.
Google? That's too easy. But we'll do it anyway.
Local companies or just like corporations?
Whatever you want, but the smaller the better, because it's harder to find. But let me do Google first. It's a good example. So I typed in Google. You see here where it says second? That means I'm connected to somebody who's connected to Quinn Madison, who is the senior content strategist at Google. So let's see. Who do I know? That looks like Vanessa Toy, but I can't tell. Yep, Vanessa Toy. So if I click on there, it'll say who we have in common. So if I want to get to know Quinn Madison at Google, the senior content strategist, all I have to do is send a message to Vanessa, who is she's part of the UCLA Alumni Association with me. We went to school together. I just send Vanessa a message and say, hey, how well do you know Quinn? Could you introduce me to her? And it's just that easy. So it's 10:49 now. I want to make sure to let you guys out, but we'll play around with this a little bit more on Friday, and then we'll talk about your professional development plans. See you on Friday.
Do we need to do anything specific on LinkedIn other than create a profile? I created one just now or a little bit ago because my company that I work for, they have a LinkedIn profile. There's a bunch of compliance stuff that they control. They basically control it. So am I going to actually need to be able to use it for something?
Yes, but
I sent you a request or whatever, but that was it.
yes, but I'll give you instructions on what I want you to do to edit.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
No problem.
Your signature.
Okay.
And then I worried about they're already 44, and then this class is 45. Is it okay?
What number of students?
Number of
Yeah.
students.
As long as it's less than 75.
Okay, cool. Okay. Thanks so much.
No problem. Who's next?
I just added the class.
That's yours.
I was here Monday. I just wanted to know if I needed to know anything.
The only thing you need to make a form. You need to form a group.
Oh, okay.
So we're forming groups of 4 to 5 students each.
Okay.
So on Friday, ask around
Okay.
about who needs more group members.
Okay.
And otherwise, I record all the lectures. So I haven't been able to post them yet, but if you go in over the weekend, you can watch the lecture from Monday.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Thank you.
No problem.
Do you have
Ashley, what's up?
paper that I slipped under your door?
No, but when did you slip it under there?
Monday night.
Monday night? It's probably after I wasn't there yesterday.
Okay. I
So-
was like, okay.
No, I'm sure it's there.
Okay.
Here, we've got... Wait here, okay? I'm going to go get it right now.
I'll put the notes. Dude, that took a little time.
You did that to me.
Mm-hmm.
You do now.
Well, I mean, I still do it. Just a little.
So I do it.
She's like, Mom, Ashley, I know.
That classroom in the one where we have an extra freezing in there. I brought it. We got super early. Yeah, that's the worst. It's last two. And you can't mix it.
Thursday was gonna be my phone test. I have that to do that in the morning. So I was also gonna go into work Thursday to do some stuff.
Like just going for free.
No, not for free.
Oh, I was like, you're
I hope she
crazy.
doesn't think I'm going to.
That's how I was like, how would you do that?
Maybe I should elaborate that with her.
Clocking in today, right? Because you can only clock in when it's on when I work. Schedule
No,
thing.
we log in on the computer.
Yeah, but you can like when your shift's coming up, like say you work at 10, we'll only let you clock in a little bit before that. Oh, that's how mine is. But ours is totally different.
Yeah, our system isn't like actually linked to the app.
No?
No.
Oh,
The app
ours
just
is.
tells it that the app is just like our schedule.
So you can clock in whenever when you're there. Gotcha. Mine is like linked, so it will only let us clock in 15 minutes before,
Oh, okay.
which is fine.
That kind of sucks though. What if someone has to do like an emergency like shift swap or something?
Well, then he would change it. Like he would do it.
Like manually.
Yeah. You have to.
I don't have to, but it's what it is. I'm coming to town and there's some stuff that needs
Look
to
familiar?
be done. Yes.
Okay.
So I'll turn it in. The lady in there told me that you had to turn it in. I don't understand why. And I also don't understand why I have to have that part, but
Because there's a prereq that I have to say it's okay that you don't have.
okay, the fine. And that's what the other form was for, I thought. I don't know. I just do what they tell me to do and hope that it works.
Professor,
Yes.
we can be only 4 if we want for the group projects.
4 or 5.
4 or 5. Okay.
Should we already buy that thing online or not yet? Is that like
The Globus thing? No, you can wait till next week.
Two of the kids, they can start to read, and the rest have to figure out how to do their part. At the end, they want to present and what they will do.
Thank you so
You're welcome.
much. Have a good day.
You too.
One thing I learned is we have to match up the schedules so that we can work together.
Why is it doing that?